The courtroom held its breath. Time itself seemed to pause as the soft tick of an antique wall clock echoed off the paneled walls. Golden sunlight streamed through high windows, catching the dust in midair like suspended thoughts. Every face in the room was fixed on a single small figure behind the witness stand. Her name was Layla. She was 9 years old. Her legs swung just above the wooden floor, not quite long enough to reach. Clutched tightly in her hands was an old cloth-bound book, its spine worn, corners frayed, the kind of book that held stories and safety. Layla wore a simple lavender dress, dotted with tiny stitched moons and stars, something you might wear when you needed a little courage. But this wasn't a play, and it definitely wasn't a dream. This was family court in a quiet Washington town. Layla was the only child among a sea of serious adults. Attorneys, clerks, the judge, and 2 parents seated far apart. They carried the heavy air of regret and broken promises. Her mother sat with a tissue in hand, her face tired, but resolved. Her father sat stiff and unmoving, jaw tight, eyes darkened by something unsaid. A tension hummed beneath the quiet, like static before a storm, but Layla wasn't watching them. Her gaze fixed beyond the wooden railing to a large German shepherd in a deep navy vest. The white embroidery read, "Service dog, please do not pet." He sat still and focused, calm, but somehow alert, as if waiting for something no one else could see. That dog's name was Ranger, and what happened next would change everything. Layla hadn't spoken in nearly 2 years. Her silence hadn't arrived suddenly. It tiptoed in over time, stealing her words, one by one. Laughter faded, humming disappeared. Bedtime stories became quiet stares. The silence wasn't due to a lack of things to say. It came from fear. Fear that speaking could lead to something terrible again. Most in the courtroom didn't know the full truth. Not the lawyers, not the clerk, maybe not even the judge, but Layla's mother knew. And though his face was unreadable, deep down, her father knew too. It happened one freezing night. Layla's father had been restless, rage simmering just beneath his skin. One wrong question, one mistimed glance, and the house exploded in shouting. She tried to hide, but he found her. He shook her hard. Bruises came, but worse than the bruises was what vanished inside her. Her sense of safety, her belief in kindness, her voice. The bruises faded, but her silence did not. Therapists tried everything. Games, colors, dolls, even medication. Nothing helped. Layla remained silent, still as if her very breath might call back the storm. Then came Ranger, not as a cure, but a companion. They first met in a therapy room. Layla sat on the rug, unmoving. Ranger stayed across the room, eyes calm and knowing. He didn't bark. He didn't even approach. He simply watched and waited. Something unspoken passed between them. In that moment, Ranger chose her. She didn't reach for him. Not that day, but eventually. After weeks of gentle presence, she laid a hand on his fur. Then a signal, then a pattern of communication, practiced in silence. He wasn't just a support dog. He became her bridge. Now in that hushed courtroom, the bridge stood nearby, ready. Judge Eleanor Reeves was known for her no-nonsense style. 25 years on the bench, through some of the toughest family cases in the county. Her reputation, strict but fair, no theatrics, no pity. Her black robe was crisply pressed, her gray hair pulled back neatly, her gaze sharp and focused. But on this day, something in her expression shifted. She studied Layla carefully. The small hands on the worn book, the quiet eyes, the feet not quite reaching the floor. Then a glance toward the dog. Judge Reeves nodded slowly. "Layla," she said gently, her tone softer than anyone expected. "You don't need to speak if you're not ready. You can nod or look toward Ranger. I will understand." Layla remained motionless. Silence deepened. No one dared move. Then Layla's right hand stirred. A subtle, slow gesture, a small circle traced in the air with her pinky. Ranger's ears twitched. He stood in one smooth movement and walked with purpose through the open gate. The bailiff made a motion, but the judge lifted a hand. Let him through. Ranger padded to Layla's side, turned, and sat. Steady, present. Layla tapped her chest twice. Ranger gave a single sharp bark. The room tensed, a shift like cold air. People looked around, unsure but visibly moved. The attorneys whispered. Layla's mother covered her mouth. The judge leaned in. What does that mean? She asked softly. A woman rose from the back. Layla's psychologist. That's how Layla tells the truth, she said. It's a nonverbal protocol we developed together. That signal, followed by Ranger's bark, means she's ready to share. From her coat pocket, the psychologist withdrew a pale envelope. She gave me this yesterday, she said. Said only to give it to you. If Ranger barked, Judge Reeves took the envelope carefully. Inside, a crayon drawing. A little girl crouched in fear. A towering red-faced man loomed above, his fists clenched, mouth twisted in anger. In the corner, Ranger, positioned like a shield. On the back, 9 words in shaky blue marker. He says he cares, but I feel safe without him. A murmur passed through the court. The father stood abruptly. This is nonsense, he shouted. She trained the dog to... Sit down, Judge Reeves snapped. Sharp, immediate. He froze. Ranger didn't move. Layla didn't flinch. The judge's hands traced the drawing's edge. Her lips pressed tight. This court sees this not as evidence, she said, but as truth, raw, painful, and clear. The father barked again, furious. This has all been coached. Judge Reeves didn't blink. Sir, another word and you will be removed. He sat. The room stilled again. And then a voice. Soft, fragile, but real. Ranger remembers, Layla said. Even when I couldn't. Layla's first spoken words in nearly 2 years. The judge stared, unmoving, then slowly nodded. Thank you, she said. 2 words heavy with meaning. Ranger pressed closer, brushing Layla's leg. Her gaze didn't flicker to her father, not once. Her focus held steady. Judge Reeves turned to the mother. I grant you full custody. There was no applause, just a collective breath, finally released. As the courtroom cleared, the judge paused. She looked once more at Layla, Ranger steady at her side, and whispered, You've spoken more in one moment than many do in a lifetime. She didn't strike the gavel. She simply set it down, softly. 6 months later, a park bench, a quiet afternoon. Layla's pencil moved across a sketchbook. Trees, birds, and a familiar dog. Ranger rested beside her, relaxed, alert, not as her protector now, but her companion. A boy ran up, sticky-fingered and curious. Can I pet your dog? Layla hesitated, then smiled. She tapped her chest. Ranger gave a single bark and wagged. The boy laughed. So did Layla. Not just a sound, but sunlight, healing, a bridge rebuilt. And in that moment, the silence that once held her disappeared entirely.